of a place like yourself is that you have an outside experience as well, which means social distancing is a bit easier. And I think people will be more keen to go to outside spaces than maybe in inside spaces.
Definitely, definitely. So again, it's a bit of a tough time, with us going into cooler weather. For those who are, prepared to carry on running through the wine farm. Every day when I arrive at the farm, it's so wonderful to see groups of people arriving to do the jog around the farm or the mountain biking trails and stuff. So obviously that will still remain open. And, from a health perspective, it's wonderful to be able to get out there once we have all been, feels like, the four walls, clawing down the four walls, getting some fresh air and exercise. But we will have to maintain, as much as we see ourselves as a wine brand, we also have a restaurant and a hotel on our farm too. Yeah. So we kind of have a foot on both sides. So we will have to look at different ways of encouraging people to enjoy our facilities, but being aware of, what, like I said before, the new normal is going to be. So that, yeah, we've had conversations. We'll sit down, in a group and have larger discussions of the next 12 to 24 months and where we can assist the best we can. And that goes, I think, from a global discussion. It's not just South Africa. So it's going to be a very interesting rollout. And to be honest, I think time will tell. We can put initiatives in place and it will be adjusted and changed. We'll literally have to be able to go with the flow and be flexible,
It's going to be interesting times. Carolyn, I see Zevenwacht is a member of this BWI, the Biodiversity and Wine Initiative. What does that mean?
Yes. So we actually, again, like I mentioned, we are very lucky to have a fairly big farm. 100 hectares are under vine, but then what we've done is actually, so from about 2009, apologies, we became a member of the BWI. What we've done is we've put 80 hectares of a very special biome aside called Renosterveld. So it's under a lot of stress. There's very little Renosterveld left within the Western Cape. And through a conservancy as part of the Buckleray Conservancy, so it's ourselves and our neighbors that have put a certain amount of hectares of Renosterveld aside. That obviously encourages soil health, protection of birds of prey and smaller mammals. We've got about 150 to 200 different species of flora. So it's just assisting and having that balance between the farming factor and the Mother Nature factor, and making sure we're not intruding and not being greedy as to, what we need to do to make sure everything is looked after efficiently and sufficiently. And it's also about farming methods, ensure that we're not using anything that's going to affect the natural flora and fauna, and just be careful how we manage what we do use in the vineyards and so on and so forth. So keep it as natural as possible.
Well, I think this is a growing trend worldwide, and especially your new markets, your millennials, your new, they are, seems to me,
yes,
they're more interested in this type of thing than in the old, traditional wine history and that type of stuff.
Completely agree. And it's quite interesting when you speak to the Nordic countries. One of the first questions is around, the conservancy and how we protect our farms and how we look after, flora and fauna, going through into how our people are looked after too. And the other question is whether we're vegan as well. So those are two very definite trends coming out. And we can happily say we are now vegan. We're offering vegan wines. We've walked away from all animal products within the wine.
I was wondering about that. I always assumed that all wines are vegan, but now it seems to me there is a difference. So So can you enlighten me a little bit more? It's quite interesting.
Sure, yeah. It's a lot of people don't really realize that exactly as you said, we weren't vegan. But when you go into the larger process of how the wine is made, so for example, when it comes down to the filtration, so the fining of the wine, collecting the solid particles out of the juice itself, for example, we used to use certain animal products. So, for example, you can actually basically use egg whites, and that almost works as like a consomme. I don't know if you know the soup consomme. So it's a clear soup, and they add the egg white to attract all the solid particles, so that you end up with a beautiful, bright, clear soup. And it's exactly the same concept within the winemaking side, but obviously it being egg white, it's it's an animal product.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different methodologies. I'm trying to remember the other one. I think it's called an isotope or something. It's like a fish bladder
Oh, my word,
powder,
yeah.
something like that, that is added. But again, obviously, it's an animal product. So officially, all wines from the 2019 harvest have moved over to being vegan. So now we have moved over to different methods where we use only plant-based, or for example, bentonite clay. So there are different versions, and there's different products on the market, basically from like a starch version through to a kelp version, and like I said, using a clay. But more and more brands are moving towards using plant-based, and it's I don't think it's just going to be fad or fashion. It's not just a trend. It's now becoming more of a way of life, a healthier way of living,
Definitely. I mean, it's a huge trend. So Carolyn, been interesting so far, but now what I would like to hear from you personally is, what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Sure. It's been a very long journey. Like 21 years later, there's a lot learned. I think in the early days, the complete naivety to obviously being an older now. I don't have to give my age away.
No, man, I can hear you're still a youngster. So stop teasing us.
Thanks, Rob. It's so sweet. But for me, I think the biggest lesson I've learned, bar many others, but one that really sticks with me and which I apply to my day-to-day workings, from putting strategy together right through to when I actually am speaking to consumers at wine shows, for example, is the KISS methodology. So keep it stupid simple. There's no reason to overcomplicate the way we talk about wine, for example, or strategies that we put together. At the end of the day, keep it as clear and simple as possible, that everyone can understand where we want to go and what we want to do. I think that for me has been the biggest lesson learned. And it's through trial and error, and it's through mistakes. And as you well know, we'll learn from our mistakes. But if I can recommend for anyone to stick to that simplicity of understanding wine, explaining wine, when you speak to your consumer at the wine show, they don't really want to know about pH, acidity, barrel ferment, malolactic fermentation. I mean, yes, you obviously have the people who will specifically ask for that, but your general wine consumer actually just enjoys that liquid in the bottle. They want to learn about your brand truth, the history, who you are sometimes, and just have good, honest conversations. It doesn't have to be complicated.
I like that. So, Carolyn, can you give us your very own wine quote or a favorite wine quote?
Well, there are lots of wine quotes that I don't know if it's appropriate.
That's okay.
I think for me, wine should never be seen as an unattainable subject, whether it's from an understanding perspective or from a pricing perspective. Wine shouldn't be put on this pedestal, sitting at some mountaintop, Um, and we have to change the way we talk about wine, the way we express the subject. Let it be less intimidating and let it be more inclusive. So at the end of the day, I mean, I don't care how you're going to drink my wine or with what you're going to drink it. If you have chosen to buy my wine off the shelf or chosen my wine off that wine menu, I love you. Full stop, thank you, done. That's deal done. That for me is just very important going into this new cycle. We have to expand our market, and it's not necessarily from a country perspective. We have to expand our drinking market, who we are talking to, who we want part of a broader conversation. And currently we aren't able to do that with the way we are expressing wine conversations and brand. It has to just be simplified, more open, more honest, less intimidating.
Very, very wise words. Carolyn, how do people, if people want to get hold of Zevenwacht, where do they find you? How do they get hold of you?
The best way is to go onto our website. All information is on there. So it's www.zevenwacht.co.za. So whether you want to speak to myself, my details are there, or the office for general queries, from banqueting through to booking accommodation or wine tasting, all the information is on our website.
Okay, excellent. We'll put those links in the description. Carolyn, it's
Great.
been a pleasure to talking to you, and thank you for taking the time, and enjoy the rest of your lockdown.
Thank you, Will. It was wonderful to catch up with you, and best of luck for the lockdown to you too.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Before we start the show, I need to share something really exciting. It's called the About the Winelands pop-up. And if you want to get your customers excited about your lockdown or online specials, you need to email us right now. Email us at visitthewinelands@gmail.com and add Winelands pop-up to the subject line. Who knows? We might just make you an offer you cannot refuse. That is visitthewinelands@gmail.com. Now, on with the show. Good day, everyone. Today I'm speaking to Lisa from Lisa Loves Wines. Welcome, Lisa, to About the Winelands.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the invite.
So, Lisa, tell me, how are you enjoying your lockdown period? Are you having a good time?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm enjoying the 2 hours extra a day. It's quite refreshing. To wake up refreshed every morning is a nice thing. I've never been a morning person, so well, that's quite nice. And otherwise, I must be honest with you, I enjoyed the time with my kids and my family. It was all an unusual experience, something we most probably will never have again. But I think it can slowly but surely come to an end now. I'd love to go walk on the beach and go back into the winelands. I miss it terribly.
So, talking about the winelands, how did you get involved in the wine industry?
I went to Stellenbosch University.
Oh, that's a good way to start, right?
Yes, I think so too. Yes, a university in the winelands. So it's everyone was sort of involved in the wine industry. No, seriously, I at that stage I was romantically involved with the person who's my husband now, and he was as a winemaker, and all the events we went to, everything was around wine, and it united us because it meant meeting people, eating great food, and having great moments together, and we just loved it. It was a nice industry to be in, and it involved and connected a lot of different types of people. So it was lovely. That's how it started. And he then moved to Germany as a flying winemaker. And after my studies, I also went to Germany and stayed there for over 18 years before coming back to South Africa. But because I studied politics and multicultural relations, my partner was stationed in a very small remote little town with only one employer, which was at that stage the largest wine producer in Europe. It was also the only place where I would be able to work. So that's how I got into the wine industry itself. I started once I returned to South Africa. That's how I created Lisa Loves Wines. I started Lisa Loves Wines with the experience that I had in the industry in Europe.
Well, that's awesome. So I mean, you've been in the wine industry for quite a while. So and also you speak different language. Which languages do you actually speak?
I speak Italian, French, German, and a bit of Spanish, as well as Afrikaans. Afrikaans is my mother language.
Amazing. So Lisa Loves Wine started as a tour business, am I right?
Yes. Well, I worked in the wine industry before. So when I came back to South Africa, I initially looked for work in the industry. But it really bothered me to think that I would be spending so much time in an office under a roof within four walls, or traveling again, which I didn't want to travel again at that stage. I wanted to stay put. So, it started by chance, really, as it so often does. And one tour guide actually in a coffee shop recommended an institute where I could get myself qualified. And that's where I started to freelance as a tour guide. And I then started Lisa Loves Wines as a company offering wine tours because that was inevitably my background. And I just enjoyed it so much to be back in South Africa and the winelands. I wanted to share this joy. Often people who live in their own country, inhabitants or locals of such absolute beauty, are sometimes oblivious. They're oblivious to the grandiose mountain backdrops, the sea views, the landscape, the wildlife, and that you can enjoy all of this while softly sipping wine in the sun. I mean, it's like gorgeous. It's simply stunning. So I wanted to enjoy it. I wanted to experience it more. And yeah, but the wine tours, they were just the start of it all. Lisa Loves Wine's goal is to be a platform where people can connect and learn, and a platform where there is a cultural exchange, and enjoying authentic cultural experiences. Yeah, so that's the beginning of Lisa Loves Wines, was actually just showing the world what the Cape is all about. But in the future, I hope to show the Cape what the world is all about in terms of wine. So that's the next challenge. You can watch the space.
Well, that's interesting. So, Lisa, what makes your, I mean, why would I come on your wine tour? What makes your wine tours different to other people's wine tours?
Well, they're very personal. They're authentic. They're in the tourist's home language, and Lisa Loves Wines can relate back to the tourists in the term that the tourist might understand and know, because of my experience in Europe and the mindset of the European consumer, and also the wine consumer, for which in which I worked, in a milieu in which I worked, and as a brand manager and in marketing and sales. So it's a different type of tour if you can relate back to where the tourist comes from. No.
Well, that's interesting. So, are you currently, when people come on the tour, do you personally take them on the tour?
Yeah. Yes, at this stage I do it personally. Well, at the moment not, because of the virus. Funnily enough, the virus is, well, my industry is wine and tourism, and both of them are pretty much kaput now in lockdown. But when I do tours, I do it personally. It's all hands-on. And yes, what people appreciate is the knowledge of wines. Yeah, as I said, in the language of origin, and the personal nature. I think people appreciate an authentic experience. And I also visit wineries that not one of the mill wineries, smaller wineries, or just unknown wineries. Each winery has a story to tell. So that's what makes it a bit different.
Well, that's very nice. I mean, that's our aim is to tell the story of the wine. Yeah.
I quickly want to share something exciting. I have heard via the grapevine that the Fishwives Club will be launching a new lifestyle club soon. If you have not heard of the Fishwives Club yet, just know that you are probably missing out on the sexiest wine label out there. To stay in the loop, please quickly go and follow them on Instagram. The Instagram handle is @the Fishwives Club Lifestyle. Let me repeat that, @the Fishwives Club Lifestyle. Now, on with the show.
So, Lisa, in terms of any other services you offer or you're planning to offer, can you expand on that now, or are you going to keep it a secret to a later date?
It's a little bit, well, it's a little bit fresh,
Okay.
but I'm super excited about it. So I'm going to reveal it. I would like to offer a platform for other wines, for people in Cape Town who are interested in wines. I find that there's a lack of accessible European and other world wines in South Africa, and I would like that will be my next project, because I'm literally sitting at the source of a whole network of producers in the world that offer wonderful value for money and are unknown. And I think the South African wine connoisseur is appreciative enough of you know, good quality wines that do not need to be a brand or a well-known brand or wine. I think South African palates are evolved enough to be able to appreciate lesser known, good value for money wines. And I would like to import these and offer a platform not only to taste the wines, but to experience them as a cultural offering, you know, with food, and still want to see how it develops with maybe, you know, for example, if you do sherry, then you might have uh, a flamenco player, or you know, you do sort of a pop-up system where you, for 1 month, you showcase sherry and the region sherry and the culture of sherry, the food of Jerez, and the next month you do the south of France, but with brands that you might not know, and are still great value for money. I look forward to partner with someone in the future and offer this right here, and especially now after Corona, where people might not be able to or do not want to travel to these countries, offering them right here, these experiences right here might be very interesting.
I just wanted to ask you about that. I mean, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I wondered if you're planning collaboration with some local partners or even other producers locally. That I think personally that you know, for somebody here in South Africa to appreciate their own produce and our own wines, we need to expand our horizons and taste other stuff as well. So yeah, I think that is absolutely a fantastic idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have no with other individuals, yes, but not with wineries at this stage. No.
Okay, that's
interesting.
Because
I would be strictly speaking not a competition to them, but it would also be interest. Well, funnily enough, the winemakers in the region, all the people, the producers in the region, they all import wines from all over the world to be able to benchmark their own product. Because that's the one thing that's missing in South Africa, is that we have everything, you know, in European countries, or in Germany, where I lived before, you have everything on offer. You have every country on offer, and the countries compete with one another on the shelf. Whereas here, we only have, generally speaking, South African wines, and I think people are open to new tastes and new backgrounds and new cultures. And it's just a question of getting the right entry point, you know, because there's a misconception that overseas wines are extremely expensive, but that is in fact because it's always the brands that we see, and not necessarily the plain run-of-the-mill wines that are excellent quality and good value for money. And this is what I would like to showcase.
Well, that's amazing. So Lisa, as a wine tour guide, and also with your business, Lisa Love Wines, and your presence online, you're becoming an influencer in the wine industry. So if a wine producer or a wine estate is sitting there and thinking, I want to get more people to me, how do they get your attention? What do they need to do?
It's so easy, you know, all producers are unique. They all offer a story to tell, and I enjoy hearing all of them. My main media platform is Instagram at the moment. I just enjoy the simplicity of pictures, videos, and a few words. And this is the thing that I particularly, as you know, as with people, wineries, producers, each winery or producer has a specific angle and a specific story to tell. And I think that I'm quite good at finding that story and portraying it, an authentic story, not necessarily that which most marketers tap into, where you need a lot of money. I don't believe in that. I believe in finding that story or that angle which everyone has, because all wineries are unique, all producers are unique. Finding that story, and it's not an expensive thing, and then to speak of that and reveal that to the world. And I think that's what makes Lisa Love Wines unique, is the capacity to see that in a producer or in a winery.
That sounds awesome. So you've mentioned the coronavirus, and like you said, it forces everyone to rethink their business models. I like your idea of bringing the world to South Africa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you have any other changes or ideas for your business in mind? And do you have any ideas for your producers as well on what they can do while they're stuck in a system where they can't really accept visitors to their place?
I think this is a wonderful opportunity to engage with your customers, with your public, in an interesting, well, as I always say it again, but in an authentic manner, to find what is your unique offering, and that I find very important for all producers, is to find that and to showcase it. But the way that the world of tourism will change, at least, is that I think we're going to have to focus a lot on local tourism and engage our own people, and that's going to be important for wineries and producers to find a way how to attract them. I envisage like family reunion packages, where people can come out to the winelands, to a place that they maybe don't know, and sit around a fire and drink wine and enjoy each other's company as a family, where they feel safe and secure. And that's going to be very important after the corona, that people feel safe, and feel that things are clean, and that they can be sure that the chances are very small that they will contract the virus, because that's something that's on everyone's mind.
Awesome. That sounds like a very good idea. So, Lisa, your wine journey has been interesting. So what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
That most people in the world have the same idea about life, love, and laughter. We can all sit around a table, enjoy each other's company, all of us, mostly. It's rare that people are utterly unenjoyable. All we need is a table and a glass of wine and a platform to connect.
That's interesting. So on that note, can you give us your very own wine quote?
Yes. Wine and vines are very much like people. Those that struggle or make an effort in life are far more interesting and have more character than those who do not.
Awesome.
That's my finding. Yes.
That's very good. Lisa, if people want to get hold of you, how do they find Lisa Loves Wines? How do they find you?
On Instagram, on Facebook, those are the platforms that I am keeping up to date. I'm restructuring my website, as everyone else is doing in the corona time. And my website will be live within the next month. I'll have my new website out.
Awesome. We'll put all the links down in the description. Lisa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time speaking to us, and I'm sure our listeners will find this interesting.
Yes, thank you.
And
thank you.
Yeah, I know you're busy, so thank
Excellent.
you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to influencers and leaders in the wine industry, winemakers, restaurants, and other businesses. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so that you do not miss out. Now, to get on with the show. Today I'm talking to Laurie Cooper of Abingdon Estate. Good morning, Laurie.
Good morning, Will.
I'd love to hear a bit more about yourself and how you became involved.
Yeah, so my kind of journey in wine is probably a short one, but a fast-tracked one. It goes back to my parents started Abingdon back in 2004. So I've throughout school, I was involved in the industry, and then my parents were running a wine estate, but I never had any interest in it. I don't really remember much of it. It was only much later, around 2012, I was living in London, and I finally decided to do just a quick wine course because I really needed to know more about wine. And that was kind of the beginning of being completely sucked in and immersed in this industry. And from one short wine course to my WSET diploma, I then came home, started to join the farm full-time. So I did the winemaking with my dad, opened the wine school so that I could run the WSET courses and do. And then got involved on kind of sommelier side of things. And so went into my sommelier qualifications, won the Merton Chandon Best Young Sommelier last year, and
Awesome.
I'm currently on the Master of Wine program. So it's been kind of a whirlwind, but loved every minute of it.
Tell us a bit more about this MOET program. That sounds exciting, and congratulations on winning.
Thank you. So it's, as I said, my history is a lot more on the study of wine, the wine tasting, and I've never really been involved in the sommelier service side of things. So I did the qualification just to kind of better myself, and also because I was running those courses and wanted to be able to teach it. And I thought I'd just enter the competition on a bit of a whim, really. So it was the Merton Chandon Best Young Sommelier, which took place in October last year, and we went through the quarterfinals, the semi-finals. The next thing, I found myself in the finals and won it. So it's, yeah, that side of things is also taking off and being a great journey.
That's awesome. So tell me, how did your parents start making wine in KZN? I mean, I'm from the Cape, so I didn't even know you guys were making wine there, to be honest. So I feel, I was ashamed of myself, but anyway, tell us a bit more how you started and a little bit of the history of Abingdon Estate.
Yeah, I suppose you could call it brilliance or sheer madness. So my dad, we moved from Johannesburg. My parents were based in Johannesburg and moved to Abingdon back in 2000. And they bought the farm with absolutely no plans to make wine. My dad is a petroleum engineer, has absolutely no experience in winemaking at all. But the more Ian looked at the land and the more he wanted to do something with it, he kept coming up with different ideas. And we were actually in the Alps, and he saw these vineyards, and something just triggered. And he just thought, you know what, if you can make wines in extreme climates, if you can make them in wetter climates at altitude, why aren't there any vineyards in Natal? So he started researching it. And he started researching, this idea came about in about 2002. And in 2004, he planted the first vines. So everything he's done from the beginning then was 100% self-taught. He has no experience in wine. KwaZulu-Natal had no vineyards. But he's just an incredibly determined, stubborn, hardworking man, and he decided to make it happen. So in 2007, we produced our first KZN estate wine.
What an awesome story. Now that you mentioned the Swiss Alps, some of the best wine in Europe are made and then obviously consumed right there, because it's not a lot of volume that can be produced in those extreme climates. Are you finding the same volume type of thing, that you're producing small amounts?
Yeah, so we're a very small estate. We're about 3.5 hectares under vine, and it's exactly that. In an extreme climate, for us, we want to be able to make sure that we are focusing on the quality and not the quantity. And the bigger you go, obviously things like summer rainfall, you've got to manage your rot. Your hands-on maintenance and canopy management is so big that it would just be silly to try and produce on a mass scale. You just can't keep on top of it. So we do keep it small. It's small production, and it just means that we can really, as a family, stay on top of the viticulture and make sure that we're monitoring everything, and we're really looking after the vines in this kind of a climate.
By the sounds of it, you're the only one producing in KZN, am I right?
There's 3 of us. So on a commercial level, there's now 3 producers. So Abingdon is the oldest, and we produce the first estate wines out of KZN. And then since then, Highgate Wine Estate is just across the valley. They've producing, they've joined us, and there's also Cathedral Peak Cellars,
Of course, yes.
Cathedral Peak Wines. Yeah.
Do you think there's growth in the industry there? Do you see opportunity for more vineyards to be planted?
Absolutely, I hope so. I think, especially with global warming, we're starting to see, the quality this year was sensational. We're starting to see warmer days. We're seeing less rain. Our season is becoming drier and drier, and so I think there's huge potential to build KZN as a wine region and get more wine estates. We've got beautiful altitudes. So Abingdon sits at 1,140 meters. So beautiful altitude with the season getting drier, those cold winters. It's a lovely place to be.
It's amazing. The global warming seems to be having an effect everywhere. I've been to, I think, what's a place called Denby Wine Estate in Surrey in England,
yes.
which they used to have warmers in their vineyards to actually heat their vines during the cold winter days. And the last few years they haven't needed it, and also the quality of the wines have improved significantly because of the warming effect.
Yep, I think there's certainly places that we thought wouldn't produce previously are now in the limelight, and yeah, the UK is definitely one of them.
Yeah, amazing. So, what can a guest experience when visiting your estate? What do you have there?
So we focus on, we're a family wine estate, and we want you to be able to really experience that. So on the estate, we have a tasting room and we have a wine bar that serves tapas-style meals on the weekend. And we always want you to know that if you do come to Abingdon, you will meet one of us. You'll be able to speak to one of the winemakers, either myself or Ian. Jane does all the cooking. Jane's my mother. She does all the cooking. And we're very much involved. And there's always a bustling atmosphere. You get to taste a range of all our wines. And it's just that really personal experience that we hope to be able to give people when they visit.
So the fact that you're calling it a wine bar beside the tasting room sounds to me like almost there must be some locals coming, and it's almost a place where people come to hang out on weekends on a regular basis. Is this true?
Very much so, yeah. So we've been very privileged that I would say for about the last 5 to 6 years, most weekends are fully booked. And we've got repeat customers. A lot of our Durban-based guests travel to us for lunch. And so, yeah, we've been very successful. Last year, we won the American Express Dining Awards, the best kept secret in the country. And yeah, it's a great place that's always going to be busy and hopefully an experience.
Amazing. So, Laurie, now to the important stuff. Tell us a bit more about the wines that you are making there.
So we make for a small estate, we make a range of different wines from, MCC, although we don't call them Method Cup Classique, we call it a Method Traditionnel. So we've got a Chardonnay Blanc de Blanc, we've got a Rosé style MCC, we also have a Viognier Petnat. In terms of the white wines, we have Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and Viognier. On the red wines, we have Syrah, Cabernet Sauvignon, and a Nebbiolo, which we produced our first vintage this year. And a range of different wines. We like to be able to experiment. There's always 1 or 2 different blends or different wines that we produce each year just to give you something different. But we hope that they give you a uniquely KZN profile. So everything we do is 100% estate wines. It's all from the farms, and we want you to be able to hopefully taste that difference, to taste KZN wines, that continental aspect, that lovely fresh acidity, the elegance that comes with them. So we're never going to make a full-bodied, big, bold, rich style of Mediterranean style wine, but we do make something that's uniquely KZN. And yeah, it's been a great start for me, I think, in my winemaking journey, to be able to come to a family estate where we can experiment and play around. And yeah, we have great fun.
Amazing. So where are your wines sold? Are you exporting them or local market? What happens?
So about 98% are sold from the estate, cellar door. So we are listed in a few restaurants and hotels around the province, but most of them are sold from the farm. And I think a large part of that was the decision that we didn't want to be in a bottle store. We didn't want to be a wine on the shelf. We wanted people to come visit us, to hear the story. We don't export at the moment. It possibly would be something that we'll look into in the future. But again, it was just making sure that we looked after our local base, making sure that we got to the point where as a young wine estate, we had consistent production. We were happy with the quality. We're building a name in our local base before looking at any other options.
I understand that. Are you, I mean, with your wine bar being popular and also the local market there, would you consider maybe expanding to restaurants? Is that something in your pipeline?
Definitely, yeah. So we've been very lucky with a lot of our listings so far have been great listings. So things like the Oyster Box Hotel, Hartford House, 9th Avenue. We've been able to be quite selective, which has been fantastic. And it's only really in this last year that we've managed to see out a full year with our wines. So previously they were selling out within 2-3 months, and we would spend most of the year with no wine.
Wow.
Which as a wine estate becomes a little difficult if people are coming to your tasting to taste your wines. There was 1 December was our busiest period of the year, and we closed. We had no wine. So a lot of it in previous years has also been just looking after the tasting room and making sure we have the stock so that people who visit the estate will be able to taste our wines. Going forward, now that we are slowly, the newer blocks are kicking in, we've got larger production, and we can start to look at those other options.
The other producers, can you buy in from them, or are they also using their stock to full capacity?
So as far as I'm aware, we're the only registered estate in KZN. So everything we do will be 100% from the farm.
Okay.
I know that I think, the others, Highgate, they still KZN, but they might have bought some grapes from, I think there's a Hilton vineyard. So it's still keeping it within KZN, but for us, we are 100% estate grown, and we will always keep it 100% estate grown. So for us, this year is a small harvest, and we wish we had more, but that's the way it is, and it will stay 100% Abingdon. So a small harvest is a small harvest.
Laurie, now about this, the next thing looks like your baby, the KZN School of Wine. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So my original journey was all through the Wine and Spirit Education Trust in the UK, so WACT. And I went through to my diploma level when I moved home. And at the time I moved back, there was only one other school for WACT, which Kathy Marston's running in the Cape. And I really wanted to offer something on the East Coast, and to be able to offer the courses, which are wonderful courses, internationally recognized WACT wine courses. And I wanted to be able to bring that to KZN. So I decided to open the school, which was back in 2014, I think, and run a range of different classes so that we could offer wine courses in Natal, and to anyone. I'm really passionate about wine education, and just to be able to expand that. So yeah, the KZN School of Wine is run on the farm, and we run different courses from really fun, quick one-day courses through to the WACT level 3, a lot more intense courses.
Well, I suppose with the growth in tourism in South Africa the last few years, demand from hotels and places like that who need people who are educated in wine has also grown.
Exactly, yeah. And I think especially for KZN, we don't have that history of a wine culture. We need, I think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of the service and the wine education.
Just a quick interruption, but I do need to remind you that we are currently in a very difficult time. The South African government has set up a fund where businesses and individuals can donate to support our country through this crisis. Go to the website now and add your small donation. www.solidarityfund.co.za. Please join us all in the fight against COVID-19. That is at www.solidarityfund.co.za. Now, let's get on with the show. So, Laurie, the thing that has, on our minds all the time with the lockdown and everything, the coronavirus, and this has forced everyone to rethink their business model. Do you have any changes or new ideas in mind? Maybe online sales? What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I think it's certainly forced everyone to relook at things. So it's obviously, I think hospitality has been hit in a huge way. And with the ban of alcohol sales, the wine industry, it's tough times for us. So I think everybody needs to be able to look at different ways to move forward. Anything that is digitally minded, I think, is a great way at the moment. I think, Corona really has brought about kind of a digital transformation of business. So yeah, online sales is definitely, once we can open sales, that will be fantastic for us. And I think what we've really been focusing on is what we've seen throughout this time was the support we've had, which has been really fantastic. Is just those really loyal supporters who have wanted to, and I think we've seen it across the industry, wanting to help those who can't drum up business at this time. So we've really had an unbelievable response of those who want to be there for us, show their support, buy wines for after lockdown. And a large part of our kind of ideas moving forward is also around how do we give back to these people, because a lot of them have been with Abingdon since day one. They've bought our first vintage, they've been there and they keep buying. And I think we, as a family, we had a big discussion as to, right, when this is over, we need to find a way to give back, whether it's through wine clubs and invitation to events and verticals of our old vintages, and just being able to support those who've really shown their support, not only through this period, but also just from the beginning. And that's really humbling. That's been a really lovely kind of, in this period, which is not ideal, it's been really great to see. And so now it's just that, I think, is our ideas is right. It's time to give back.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it's amazing how this whole thing has brought people together. Also, with your education side, I think there potential, a lot of things can be digitized and taken online, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen, again, huge support from kind of WACT courses and wine courses as to, right, how can we help you to continue to run your courses? So a lot of them, and I mean, you see it on Instagram, it's fantastic just to watch, different chefs cooking and how many people are starting to do lectures. So yeah, we're starting to look at ways to lecture online. We have our online courses, different ways to run the exams, to get the materials. And yeah, there's a huge amount of change coming in, and this is a time where people are home and maybe not as busy as they usually would have been. So it's a perfect time to start courses and to start something.
Well, like
yeah.
No, apologies. Like you say, people are sitting at home, so they might as well learn something.
Exactly, yeah. So we're really looking at ways. We have a great online support and ways that we can continue those courses online.
Right. Your wine journey. Tell us, what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
I think for me, because it's been a short wine journey, yet kind of a fast track wine journey, you're always learning. And if there's anything I think that I've learned, or what I've found most important, is that you never stop learning. So it's always to stay humble. It doesn't really matter whether you've had 2 years in the industry or 60 years in the industry. You are always going to learn something new. Something's going to be thrown at you. You never ever know enough. And I mean, especially in things like KZN in the region, we are still learning every day. Every time we think, okay, we've got it, you learn something new. And the same thing with the courses. It's just every time I've done another qualification or I've finished another book, something else gets thrown at you. So I think it is really a way of teaching you to stay humble, because this is a lifetime journey. I don't think I'm ever going to know enough. So yeah, just keep learning. You'll never know enough.
Well, it's awesome that as a winemaker you can actually learn from your dad, and also what I'd like to know, your family's philosophy on winemaking. Can you sum that up a little bit for us?
Yeah, I think, I really admire my father and his philosophy. From the beginning, it's always been 100% quality driven and integrity. And he, you'll see, of course, in a family business, you have debates and heated discussions, shall we say. The amount of times my mum and I are saying, oh, Ian's done it again. He's, I don't know, pruned this vine so that we can have a healthy crop 4 years time. And he's been so stringent on making sure that even if you make sacrifices in a year, 2 years, 3 years, by the time you get to the long-term goal, you'll be in the right place. And I think you really admire that. So it's never been, there's no shortcuts. It's always been, he's thrown 100% into it. And it's been, I suppose, integrity and quality. So everything we've done is, we're not just going to be, the small guys trying to make some wine. Let's do this with the aim to produce quality from the very beginning. And even if that costs you short term, let's do it for the long term, which he started from the beginning. And I was in the wine industry. And when you become involved as a second generation, that's when you really appreciate it. Is thanks, Dad.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. Laurie, last question. Do you have a favorite wine quote, or do you have your own wine quote?
I have lots of them.
All right.
Probably not all my own, but I was thinking, there was something I read the other day that kind of struck home with me, and it said, wine is not only an object of pleasure, but an object of knowledge. And the level of that pleasure depends greatly on the knowledge. And that really struck home with me, because the more you know about my wine, the more knowledge you have, the more you appreciate it, the more you want to know. And that's really lovely, because, that knowledge of wine gives you the pleasure, but also we're in the fortunate position where the pleasure of wine gives you the knowledge. And that, to me, I think has always been my journey in wine, is knowing more about wine, is being passionate enough to continue studying it, so that you can get greater joy out of it. And we're really lucky that the study of wine is also drinking it.
Awesome. Laurie, if our listeners wants to find your estate, or they want to find your wines, or they want to find you online, how do they get hold of you?
Yep, so the estate is Abingdon Wine Estate. So our website is www.abingdonestate.co.za. The school is the KZN School of Wine. So likewise, www.kznschoolofwine.co.za. And we should, on the website, you'll see the full range of wines. If you want to get in touch with us, please send us an email. We always have updated lists, and we can send to the Cape.
That's awesome. Laurie, thank you for spending time with us, and I appreciate the time you've taken, and good luck with the rest of the lockdown and the rest of your year. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we'll be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, winelands businesses, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify.
Good day, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm talking to Kathy Brewer. Kathy is from Valera Wine Estate. She's the sales and export manager and also part of the family business. Hi, Kathy, how are you?
Hello, Will. I'm very well, thank you.
Thanks for spending the time with us. I know you must be busy.
I'm always happy when the topic is wine.
Yeah, wine is the topic. So, Valera, can you tell us a little bit of the history of the farm and your family on the farm?
Yes, sure. The Greer family bought Valera in 1983. At that point, it belonged to an Austrian gentleman who was not, and the brand was not that well known in South Africa. And most of the wine at that stage was exported. And then, there's sort of no big secret as to how Valera grew. In the mid-20s, my generation of the business, when we were in our mid-20s, that was our generation, ended up with this wine farm, and it was fairly run down, and it produced around 4,000 cases of wine. And I'd say our success is due to many hours and lots of hard work from our extended team. We had a lot of fun along the way in building our brand. And there was also a lot of luck and good timing too. Jeff and Simon basically started everything, my brother and my cousin, and I joined in '87 with my computer background, and I left that business and I went and studied food and wine at Prue-Leith in London. So in the winter months, I wrote a program to look after our mailing lists and all of that. And in the summertime, I cooked tapas-style lunches and champagne breakfast, or we can't say champagne, Cap Classique breakfasts.
Mm-hmm.
And our biggest break really came with meeting Jean-Louis Denois, who came from the Champagne region. And we had a 10-year royalty agreement with him. And that's how our bubbly started, which is mostly what we're talking about today. No one would have known that the brand we started then, called Tradition, would have grown into what it is today. And yeah, becoming one of the top bubbly brands in South Africa.
Well, that's amazing. What a change from doing spreadsheets in one season and cooking tapas in the next, right? That must have been quite. So which is your favorite pastime, the tapas or the spreadsheet?
Neither really. So now my husband cooks everything, and the spreadsheets are done by people that are much better at it than me. And I look at a computer today and I can't believe that I used to work with these punch cards and feed them into this huge, massive thing that took up a whole room. And now we're talking to each other on, podcasts and Zoom and all these fancy things, and I'm feeling a bit lost, but I manage. I prefer the people side of things and the marketing and meeting good people, talking about wine. So more the marketing and the sales than the computer and the cooking side.
Well, that's awesome. So you mentioned the Champagne region. What a lovely place to visit, and to have a license from somebody there must have been just a dream. You said bubbly. Now everybody's talking about MCC. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what you're doing at Valera and how this became the driving force in your business?
No, so Cap Classique is for sure our driving force. It's about 40% of what we do. And we've continually innovated this area because you can't just stay in the same place. So we've now introduced Zander Greer, who's our nephew, to this category. He's looking after our Cap Classique production. Jeff Greer, my brother, was the one that really got it going. Between him and Jean-Louis, I think we've looked at every category, and we continue continually do look at it, because otherwise you just get left behind.
Quite interesting. So, where are your are you selling worldwide? Is your customers mostly South African, or what is your split between exports and the local market?
Our local market is strong, so we 80% local. You know, with bottle fermented bubbly, it's not so easy to get into the export market, although the Cup Classique Association are trying very hard to lift the category, because, you know, here we can give incredible value, top quality Cup Classique, which no one really from outside can compete with. Once you get into the export markets, you're looking at the lower end champagnes, which come into our price category, and they've marketed themselves so well. And then you get Prosecco, which is not the same thing because it's not bottle fermented, but it's capturing the imagination of the younger crowd, which is also good. It's getting them drinking bubbly. And Cava from Spain. And you just got a wide range of things, and Cup Classique is just one small little dot on the map. So we have to work quite hard to get that recognized, but it is coming, and there's a lot of good quality Cup Classique being produced at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's exciting that it's coming, right? I mean, I think you're right. Your younger people are, you know, the new market, so that's going to be interesting to see how that is changing. But yeah, it's tough competition from the French in Champagne. They've always been at the forefront of marketing ideas and really pushing that. You have a footprint in France called Domaine Gruyère. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yes. Now, Domaine Gruyère is in the Roussillon, which is in the south of France, is in the foothills of the Pyrenees. And it also actually happened because of Jean-Louis Denois, who introduced us to bubbly. And he phoned my brother in December in 2005 and said to him, you know, there's this piece of land with your name on it. You've always promised you'd come and do something in France after all the years he'd spent here in South Africa. And so Jeff flew over there and just fell in love with this beautiful patch of land with Syrah, Grenache, Carignan. There was the youngest vines there are sort of 40 years old. So we're looking like at a serious piece of vineyard in a beautiful climate, which we used to, Mediterranean climate. And the guy that owned it was going to take the Euro subsidy and get out of the wine business completely. And so basically all we had to offer him was a little bit more than what Brussels were going to offer him, and we ended up with a wine farm in France. And yeah, I think our success there has really been with rosé, which is not what we were planning to do in the beginning. It's a Grenache Carignan blend. But you know, if you make a classic French rosé, people know what they're looking for: something minerally with good fruit, not too alcoholic, dry. In the South African market, the category is a little bit more confusing. You're not quite sure whether it's going to be sweet or dry or fruity. And so it's become our top seller, especially at Woolworths in South Africa. And we bring over quite a bit at a time. And I have to say that Woolworths is by far our biggest customer. They also take a wine called Lacaduc. In the area we are, there are these beautiful old Cathar castles and aqueducts, and the Lacaduc is named after aqueduct near to our vineyard, and it's a blend of Syrah, Carignan, and Grenache. And then we have a Chardonnay and a Merlot. We bought 2 hectares of Merlot near to our original vineyard, which basically all goes to Woolworths. And then they have a Grenache. On Valera itself, we also have a Gruyère Brut, which is of course we had to go there, make a bubbly. We're the only one in that little region that does. It's made from Macabo, which they mostly in Cava in Spain, Carignan and Chardonnay. And then we have a Odysseia, which is all about our journey to France. That's a Syrah, Carignan, Grenache. We have a premium red called Olympus, which is made from 100-year-old vines, and that's Syrah and Grenache. And then we have a white called Alba, which is Grenache Gris and Grenache Blanc, very unusual, from old slate soils, very low production, quite special.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So, that's quite interesting. South Africans buying French wines. Do you think that is a market that's going to grow over time?
South Africans are very loyal to locals, so it's a niche market, but we always say it's not so foreign because it's owned by South Africans.
Well, there's also, I suppose, a price issue always, right? Imported wines are always traditionally been more expensive than local stuff.
Yeah, fortunately, we do bring it over in full containers, which brings the price down.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have, euros on this side, and because we're exporting as well, it helps us to bring the price down. So it's very good value.
Oh, that's awesome. So, in terms of the other thing that I want to talk about is, sustainability and the environment. This seems to be such a hot topic these days, and you guys are also quite involved with that. So, what are you doing in terms of sustainability and also environmental awareness?
Well, thanks for bringing that up, because this is a very important part of Valera and what we do. There's two sides of sustainability. There's the environmental side, and then there's the people side.
Mm-hmm.
And we have many different projects. So I'm just going to mention some of them. We can't go into detail on all of them because we've got a rainwater harvesting, we've got solar power, we've got a indigenous tree planting project where we planted hundreds of thousands of indigenous trees, which basically make up for all the carbon that we emit in making our wine, and then some. And then we have a wildlife sanctuary on the farm, and that I'll talk about now more. But we also have the Pebbles Project, which is a non-profit organization that's based on Valera, and it looks after thousands of kids in the winelands, their education and health side of their lives, and it's really made such a huge difference. But you can look up the Pebbles Project. It's just something amazing. And then with our wildlife sanctuary, we basically have an area on the farm that's not really that suited to vineyard, and we decided to return it to its natural state. And the environmental part of our business has become more and more important to us and to our customers as well. I mean, some people actually seeking us out because of our whole sustainable environmental credentials. And so it's becoming more and more a part of people's lives. And the Wildlife Sanctuary is a big project. It allows us to show visitors firsthand what we're all about in a way that they won't really forget. Because if you come here for a 2-hour game drive and then you go on a wine tasting, you will remember it. So it adds a lot of value to the tourism part of Stellenbosch. And apart from game that we've introduced, like giraffe, gemsbok, bontebok, wildebeest, kudu, many. There are 130 different bird species, some of which were facing extinction, like the blue crane and the secretary bird. And I think it's just because, if you've got a big area like that, it becomes a safe haven to a large number of animals who then come there naturally, not something you've introduced. Like we've got lots of the Cape chameleon. So really, you just need to come there and we can explain it and show it all to you. And then at the same time, we can tell people about all our other projects while they go on a game drive through the vineyards on their way to the wildlife sanctuary.
I love it. What a concept, a vineyard game drive. I mean, there's nothing you can't love about that. So, Kathy, if you have a lot of visitors on your farm, and sometimes the public, are not always aware of environmental issues and stuff like that, like they should be. If you have a tip for somebody visiting the winelands, what's the one thing that you would say they can do to actually help with sustaining our environment?
Well, they I suppose need to think about recycling and not bringing bottles of water in plastic and discarding them. It just becomes a way of life. Everything you do, you think of. And I think this whole coronavirus has actually made people more aware of all of that. Although, you know, things have become more and more packaged, I've noticed, but hopefully
That's true, right?
hopefully that's just a temporary thing.
So it's interesting you're mentioning the coronavirus. I mean, everyone has been forced, you know, to rethink their business models. And do you guys have any changes or new ideas in mind on your side?
It's difficult because we've been thrown into this and you all become so busy trying to fight the fire. But I think the logical thing to do is to cut out areas that create a lot of stress and time, but add very little to your business. And these could be wines, for instance, that you put a whole lot of effort into and they don't really sell because they're wines that people aren't drinking anymore, or they're wines that there's so much of that you're just fighting in a big pond. Or we might change the way we manage our tasting room. I mean, we were talking the other day about, you know, the dispensers, so that you don't have too many people handling bottles. We might not go that way, but there's lots of different things to think of where you might have spent a huge amount of effort for very little gain. And I think those are the kind of things that will probably cease to exist after this time. Yeah, and then I think everybody's looking at putting more effort into direct to consumer business, but there you need to be careful that you have your logistics sorted out, because that has become such an issue, and you'll see a lot of complaints on a lot of direct websites where orders have been taken, but the delivery hasn't been fulfilled in a proper way. But it was exceptional circumstances. I think people just needed lots of patience.
I think also in that regard, don't you think that your couriers and you know, that type of businesses will come to the party over time as more and more deliveries start happening?
Yes, for sure. And a lot of them had to adapt very quickly. They had to double the size of their warehouse. And, you know, it's one thing getting a whole lot of new drivers. That's easy. But then the picking and packing and keeping up with all of that is, and having to keep social distance from each other and minimal staff. It's not so easy.
No, it's been a challenge. So talking about challenges, I mean, you've had a long wine journey. So tell us, what's personally the biggest thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
I suppose I've learned that you never know it all, and you have to be flexible and listen to your consumer. And it is vital to look after quality across various price points. I mean, you can have a less expensive wine that over delivers. It's still, you know, quality in that particular price point, which Valera is quite well known for. And then I suppose, you know, I've discovered that there are a lot of great people attracted to this industry. I've met wonderful people all over the world through my journey in wine. And then I love wine, like Lisa. I agree with her.
There we go. So talking about loving wine, now I have to ask you, can you give us your own wine quote or your favorite wine quote?
You know, now I have to bow to the superior talent of people like Winston Churchill and Madame Lily Bollinger, because I'm not so good in that area. You know, whatever I say sounds a bit corny when it comes to quotes. You know, I'd say something like, a glass of Cap Classique a day keeps the lockdown blues at bay. That sounds a bit corny. But especially if it comes out of a magnum. As long as your group is more than 4 people, we don't want to encourage drinking too much.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, you mentioned Bollinger, and, you know, the other, you know, the ladies of Champagne, or the widows of Champagne, seems to be the marketing experts. So why do you think are women so good at marketing champagne? Is there a special reason?
I think because of its sense of style and, you know, just the feeling it gives. And I mean, if you think of the quote, I've got Madame Lily Bollinger's quote next to my desk. I'm working from home. And she says, I drink champagne when I'm happy and when I'm sad. Sometimes I drink it when I'm alone. When I have company, I consider it obligatory. I trifle with it when I'm hungry. I drink it when I am. And otherwise, I never touch it unless I'm thirsty. Now, I mean, how's that? That came from a classy lady.
That is amazing. So I love that. So you were talking a little bit about Lisa and the magnums and stuff like that. I mean, Lisa's running this Biggest Beautiful campaign in which she's really promoting magnums. And in your case, guys are making MCC in magnums. Can you tell us a little bit about the magnums you make in MCC?
Yeah. Well, basically, you know, Cap Classique, when it comes to a magnum, is a lot more festive, and it gives you a sense of occasion. And it's also for those that are expecting something a little bit more from their bottle of Cap Classique. They should really upgrade to a magnum. You know, and a magnum stays youthful for longer. So for those wanting to collect magnums, they can do so and keep it for 10 years if they wish, if they can. The magnum kind of slows down the aging process, but also when you put yeast and sugar inside with your base wine and put it into a bottle, which is how you make bottle fermented sparkling wine, you put a crown cap on the end, the yeast eats up the sugar and generates CO2, and then the yeast dies off and falls to the bottom of the bottle because it's lying on its side. Now, if you can imagine, a magnum has a much bigger surface space than a 750 ml bottle. So there's more space where that lees, or those dead yeast cells, are in contact with the bubbly. It's a process called autolysis, where that character of the yeast is imparted into the bubbly. And so, especially in magnums of bubbly, more so than still wine, there is a bigger difference. And it's just more complex than a 750 ml bottle. So if you've got enough people together, why not open a magnum?
Well, why not open a magnum anyway, Kathy? I think that's quite interesting. So your size of the actual neck and the is that the same as, so your area which opens is the same size as a 1.5 liter bottle has the same neck size and cap size as a 750, right?
Yes. So basically, you've got twice the amount of wine to that small, what they call the ullage, the neck part where there's oxygen in. Mm-hmm. So that's why they say it's a slower aging process over time, because it stays fresher longer because there's less oxygen. I don't think that makes as much difference as the contact with the lees part, though.
Oh, I see.
Personally.
So, in Europe, it's become quite fashionable, to take magnums of wine and also obviously magnums of bubbly everywhere. Do you think this is a fashion that's going to, something that's going to spill over to South Africa as well?
It's quite slow in South Africa, so we produce magnums in smaller quantities. We have tried it with still wine, but it's also our fault a bit because, our sales team have got so many wines to sell that they tend to forget to push the magnums. Mm-hmm. And, in an online shop, it's also difficult because you can make the fact that you've got magnums available. Where we tend to see them selling is for weddings and big events, things like that, where it just looks impressive and grand to have this magnum. Mm-hmm. But I think if people had to, if the producers put more effort in and show people side by side the difference between a bottle that from the same vintage that's done in a magnum and done in a 750 ml, especially quite a few years later, then you can see the difference more clearly. Then it might, but it will only take on with a small portion of the population. The other category that's popular in magnums is the less expensive category, because then then it's for practical purposes, because you've got a group of 12 people and you're opening a magnum. You don't have to worry with opening 3 bottles when you can just open, or 4 bottles when you can just open 2.
Yeah, that's true, right? And it's also less stuff to carry. Person can carry 2 bottles. You're carrying enough wine for, otherwise you've got to carry 4 bottles around.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's quite interesting. So yeah, that's what we say. Big is beautiful. So, Kathy, how do people get hold of you guys if they want to order something or want to visit you?
Well, all our details are on our website, which is villera.com, VILLIERA.com, and our phone number, our email address is all on there. At the moment, we are open for click and collect. So if people order and pay, they can just come and pick it up in our taste room, or they can just drive in and place their order. We obviously are careful with how many people we allow into the taste room at any time, but there are areas outside, undercover, where they can sit and wait if there are a few people in the tasting room, or we'll just bring it out to their car. We've got mobile credit card machines. If people don't feel like coming into the taste room, we can just load the wine in their car and they can pay in the parking lot. So we're trying to be very flexible. And then, of course, in Cape Town, we do our own deliveries. So any orders that are placed, we pretty fast about delivering them. We've got our own delivery guys. Our game rangers at the moment aren't working because, well, they are working. They're delivering and helping out with taste room duty because we can't do game drives right now. So everybody has actually been involved in packing wine and delivering wine. In Johannesburg, we have a warehouse where we have a group of drivers. It's not just Villera, there's a whole bunch of other wines there. But they were a bit snowed down for a couple of weeks, but they've caught up now, so deliveries will be quite quick from there. And then the rest of the country, then we use couriers. And I think the couriers have caught up now too. So everything's not back to normal. Will be a long time before it's normal. We now have a new normal, as they say. Back to a new normal.
That's true. Well, at least, if you really want Villera, and I think that's why it's necessary to take a Magnum. At least you get enough. You just click and it'll be delivered. Do you actually deliver the Magnums as well?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, awesome. Kathy, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and it's been fun. Thank you for spending the time with us, and our listeners will appreciate the information you've given. So yeah, thank you very, very much.
No, it's my pleasure, Will. Thank you.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today we are talking to Giselle Coetzee. Giselle is the Sales and Marketing Manager, as well as the winemaker at Melisot Vineyards. Hi Giselle.
Hi Will, thank you very much. It's nice to chat with you.
It's our pleasure. Tell me, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became involved in the wine industry?
Yes, well, I was born in Johannesburg, quite away from the winelands, but we always had wine in the house, and you kind of get curious about how wine is made, and we always came to the Cape for holidays. And when the Cape Doctor blew, we ended up at wineries tasting wine. And in those days, a lot of the winemakers and owners of the farms used to present the tastings, and this was so wonderful, and I loved the whole vibe about the industry. So eventually I started doing some wine courses in Johannesburg, and every holiday I spent in the Cape. And I completed my Cape Wine Academy Diploma 2 in those days. I didn't have the WSET courses then. I met my husband and we moved to Germany, and I became a wine consultant in Germany. And that really opened the world of wine to me. I was working in this wonderful shop, and we had over 1,200 different wines from all over the world. And my manager in those days said, you can't sell a wine unless you know how it tastes. So we did quite a bit of tasting from everything, from white, rosé, bubbly, reds, anything. But eventually I came back to South Africa, and I met a winemaker that invited me to come and harvest for a couple of days. And then I decided, well, this is what I want to do. I want to make wine. I don't just want to drink it. And I enrolled at Elsenburg, and I completed my studies in 2013. And since then, I've been loving what I'm doing, making wine, and then obviously selling wine, and also doing the marketing side.
Wow, what a story. That's so interesting. So, can you tell us a little bit of the history of Melisat Vineyards?
Yes, Melisat Vineyards is a boutique winery in Paarl. It's situated close to the Huguenot Tunnel, so it's the other side of Paarl town. And the farm dates back to 1693, so the original Dekkers Vlei farm. And the current owner, Stephen Richardson, bought the farm in 1997, and he started making wine in 1999. In those days, the farm only grew Chenin Blanc, which was delivered to one of the co-ops here in Paarl. And he then decided, no, I don't want to just make white wine. So he started replanting, and he kept the oldest 2 blocks of Chenin Blanc. The farm is not that big. It's about 13 hectares, and we've got 8 hectares under vine, and then we also have guava orchards. So Stephen, he is a farmer. He's got a farm in the UK, but he doesn't grow grapes there. He grows barley, wheat, and sugar beet. But he's very passionate about wine, so he decided now he needs to purchase a farm where he can actually make some wine. And that is how he ended up in South Africa.
Oh, what a nice story. So you guys are part of the Paarl wine route, so welcoming visitors to your farm. So what can a guest experience when visiting Melisat?
Well, we are very small, so firstly, when people visit our farm, they may see Stephen or myself or one of the other guys working in the cellar there. And when we're all busy, all of us has a turn to be in the tasting room and present our wine. So we're very proud to be passionate and very personal about our wine tasting, and we want people to experience our passion. So when we do our wine tastings, there's always stories to tell about a wine, where it comes from, why we make a wine in a specific style. We also have Cemetery of Forgotten Wines, which is a bizarre collection of old wines from all over the world and from South Africa that people can view in our underground cellar. And then we also have a couple of food offerings. So people can really just spend the day there in the beautiful farm looking at our mountains.
Wow, that sounds awesome. So your wines that you're producing, can you tell us a little bit more about that, and also your own winemaking philosophy?
Well, Melisat is famous for our white pinotage. We were the first in the world to make a white pinotage in 2007. And so people come from far afield to come and taste the wine, because first they can't believe that there is a white pinotage on the market. So we like to experiment. We do things slightly different to other farms. And we produce also, apart from the white Pinotage, Cabernet Sauvignon. We've got Tempranillo, Viognier, then also Chardonnay, and then an unwooded white blend. We've got a wonderful red blend, and also a Shiraz and a Shiraz Rosé. So our range of wines are quite big for a small winery, but you cover basically all tastes in wine. Our philosophy is that we like to make wines that reflect the terroir of our area. So Paarl is quite a warm area. We've got granite soils. So there was attention to detail when we chose the rootstock and the clones for our vineyards. And we want the terroir to show in our wine, and you can actually taste that. We also, our wine style is European. It's not New World. Stephen, because he grew up on European wines, he always wanted to make wines that can age a bit longer. And our wood component is never too much. That doesn't overpower our wine. It must just add a little bit of elegance and complexity to our wine.
So that's so interesting. So, especially the story about the white Pinotage, where did this idea come from?
Well, the white Pinotage, we made it, well, Stephen made the first barrel in 2007. And in the late 1990s, early 2000s, red Pinotage was hammered in Europe, especially in Britain, for having rubbery and acetone flavors. And I think our South African palates were just used to those flavors, and we thought, well, that is what Pinotage is about. But the British wine connoisseurs said, no, that is a wine fault. And a lot of research was done on that, and it is actually a winemaking fault. But Stephen's train of thought was in those days, well, those flavors are on the skins of the grapes. So if I eliminate the skin, let's see what happens. So he made the one barrel and he sold it at a wine show in Joburg, the content of that barrel. So thought, well, maybe there's a market for this. And then slowly he increased the production. And since 2012, we haven't produced red Pinotage.
What an amazing story. So, where are your wines sold? Mostly in South Africa, I presume, or are you exporting?
Both, really. Locally, our wines are available in more specialist wine shops. We also, it's also available in the Eastern Cape, where we're doing quite well with our wine. Also in Gauteng. And then we're not really in big supermarkets because our production is too small. We produce about 40,000 bottles a year, so that has to cover our local market and exports. And our exports are mainly to Europe, so we're looking at Germany. We just sent a shipment during lockdown to the Netherlands, which safely arrived earlier this week, and then to Denmark, and then also the UK. Then a little bit to the US, and we've also exported to Argentina.
Wow, that's quite interesting. Exporting to Argentina. I didn't expect that.
Yes.
You're actually the first winery I've spoken to that's actually mentioned that. So that's quite something for the books. So you mentioned a little bit about the, sorry, did you want to say something about the Argentina stuff?
Yeah, that was an interesting one, because from there, our wines eventually ended up in Peru as well. So we've been in touch with some sommeliers and wine shops in South America because of that one export to Argentina, the original one.
I quickly want to share something exciting. I have heard via the grapevine that the Fishwives Club will be launching a new lifestyle club soon. If you have not heard of the Fishwives Club yet, just know that you are probably missing out on the sexiest wine label out there. To stay in the loop, please quickly go and follow them on Instagram. The Instagram handle is at the Fishwives Club Lifestyle. Let me repeat that. At the Fishwives Club Lifestyle. Now, on with the show.
So we know that the coronavirus has forced almost everyone to rethink their business models. Do you guys have any changes or any new ideas in place?
Well, this whole lockdown influenced everyone, and the first couple of days was quite you feel like you're in a maze and you can't get out of there, because you make a plan and you start working on it and then things change. So one thing that we've learned is that you have to be able to adapt quite fast, and that how important relationships are. And we were lucky that we started selling direct to customer. That's a new avenue that we explored beginning of the year. And that really worked for us during this. So a lot of people were ordering online. Also how it's different communicating with your customers in a digital way. So now you have to really rely on social media to get your message across. People can't taste your wine, so you have to kind of tell a story and make it a little bit visual. So we developed a social media plan, which was kind of in the pipeline, but we had to put it together quite fast to just reach our customers all over the place. And the other important thing is your relationships with your suppliers, your production team, your staff, everybody down the line. You need to keep in touch, and you need to be kind of positive about it, not negative. And it actually developed quite a few relationships, which was nice for us.
That's quite interesting. So do you think that social media is going to become more important going forward for your marketing?
It will, yes. Because we're such a small team, we have to be able to do everything. And because we couldn't get people to the farm, our tasting room manager, Alzan, she used to do a little bit of our social media, but now she's just doing social media. And it's not just posting, doing normal posts on Twitter and Facebook. It was also putting videos together and making it more interesting. And our followership on those social media platforms really grew over the last 8 weeks, which we are very happy about. So we gained a lot of new followers, and people actually ordered wine. So that was very positive for us.
That is awesome. I see you also have a wine club. So can you tell us a little bit more about the wine club?
Yes, the wine club started about 2013, and it is expanding at the moment. It's nice that people join, and it's quite easy. People can join, and they only have to buy 24 bottles a year. But we also have a wine club day. So if people order the allocated amount of wines, we invite them to the farm, and basically we entertain our clients where we will launch new wines, and they will get access to some of the experimental wines, which is not for sale in the trade. So we try to keep it very interesting for the wine club. And we've got quite a few members all over the country. It's not just here in the Western Cape. So in future, because of now all of this as well, we were thinking to not just having an open day at the farm, but also do it in the various provinces where we can invite our wine club members to come and join us and meet us and taste some new wine.
I think that's a clever idea, because I think the local market for everybody is going to become so much more important with possible tourist restrictions as well.
Yes, and apart from that, because I travel quite a lot, and Stephen as well, the owner, we go to these areas so they can come and basically meet the winemaking team. And it's not just a marketing person or a local agent that comes and do the wine tastings. It's actually some people from the farm, which I found over the years actually works quite well to promote your product, not just to rely on your local agent or representative.
Yeah, I think that personal touch, Matt, you know, for every brand, just are starting to matter so much more, you know, in your modern day, and especially now that people are, like you said, things like social media to actually engage with your customers is becoming an art.
It is, and it's becoming more difficult because there's so much competition out there. Every winery wants to get their wine on a shelf or in somebody's home. So the personal touch really means something to the clients, especially when they're far away.
Yes. So, Giselle, your wine journey, what is the most important thing that you've learned?
Well, through the years, it's for me from a winemaking side is to understand your terroir, because we want to make wine that actually speak from the area. It must be very distinct, and it takes years to know your area and your parcels in your vineyards. So it's an ongoing learning curve, really, and it's a wonderful journey just to learn about that. And in our area, we've noticed with a couple of farms in the area that there's a very specific flavor profile where we are, which is totally different to the other side of Paarl. The other thing that is always also important for me is the relationships that you build over the years. Doesn't matter who you talk with, the wine industry is actually a very positive industry, and people are always willing to help and share ideas. And especially like a difficult harvest, you can speak to other winemakers and they will share their ideas and how they solve their problems. And that is very important. And it's a wonderful journey that in itself.
Yeah, I agree with you. The one thing I've learned by interviewing a lot of winemakers and people in the industry over the last few weeks is that the wine industry seems to be extremely collaborative. People are not shy to work together and to take hands.
Yes, that is one of the reasons why I really wanted to get into the wine industry. My first harvest that I did was the famous winemaker. I'm sure I can mention his name.
Yes, please do.
I met David Nieuwoud from Cederberg many years ago, and one day I got a call and he said to me, he's looking for a female winemaker to just come and help him with the harvest for a couple of days. And I said, yes, I'll definitely be there. And that just was amazing, that somebody would actually share that information and not be shy to bring people that he doesn't know from anywhere into his cellar and to come and help to make wine. And that is how I would like to be. You need to share, you need to educate people on wine and help one another, because this is what it's about and this is how we will succeed.
So are you finding that young people are, the younger generation are interested in wine and the industry?
Yes, not as much as when I was younger, but there's a lot of young people that will come and talk and say, what is it like? What is the industry like? Is there a future in the industry? But I find that young people are probably a little bit more careful in what they drink. I mean, the whole trend is changing. So it means that we also have to adapt to what the young people are looking for and what they are drinking. But from a job perspective in the wine industry, it's very diverse. You don't necessarily have to make wine. You can be in marketing. You can be in one of the other industries that supplies the wine industry, like barrel suppliers, like suppliers that supply all the products for winemaking, yeast, and all those things. It's very interesting. So you don't have to physically get dirty work these long hours during harvesting. And I don't think people understand this actual size of the wine industry.
I think that's very, very true. So the question I ask to everyone is to actually give us a wine quote. So can you give us your own wine quote or your favorite wine quote?
There's one that has been in our tasting room now for many years, and it's not a philosophical one. It's a little bit more like a joke, but I love that. It says, "Of course, size matters. Nobody wants a small glass of wine." And in these days, I think now that we can drink wine again, it's very important to have a nice glass of wine, but drinking responsibly.
That's an awesome quote. I love it.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you and interesting. So thank you very, very much to spend the time. If people are looking for you guys, how do they find you?
Well, on our website, people can visit our website. The website is www.melasat.com. And the directions are on there. Our email is on there. They can phone us, they can email us on social media. So we are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And our tasting room is open, well, under normal circumstances, 7 days a week. And we welcome everybody to come and visit us and experience our personal and passionate attention. We're a small team, and you'll probably see Stephen or myself there. And yeah, I would love to see everybody out there.
That's awesome. And at the moment, your online shop is open for business, right?
Yes, people can go to our website or seller direct.
Okay, that's awesome. Giselle, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very, very much for spending the time. I know you're busy, and I'm sure people will appreciate the information. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Will. I appreciate chatting with you. It was very nice chatting to you, and I hope to see you at the farm soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description.
Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we'll be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, winelands businesses, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Hi everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm speaking to Zunia Boucher-Myers from Avontuur Restaurant in the beautiful town of just outside the beautiful town of Stellenbosch. Hi Zunia, welcome to About the Winelands.
Hi, well, thank you very much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. I mean, you have such a lovely place there, and you must be glad that you can finally maybe start reopening again.
Oh, we are very relieved. We cannot wait. And we are actually opening on Wednesday of next week. So very excited for that. It's been a lovely break, but it's time to get back to work.
I can believe you. So Zunia, I'm interested. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you became involved in the food restaurant business.
Okay, well, I'm trained as a fine artist, and I've always had three things that I've wanted to do. I've wanted to be a writer, an artist, and a chef. And I'm lucky that I have done all of those things in the work that I do, because I write, I do our own marketing, and I take the photos of our food and the beautiful farm on which we have our restaurant. And my business partner, Melanie, is a trained midwife. So she comes with the A-type personality, and I love to say I come with the ADD-type personality, and together we make a really great team.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
and it sounds like food and art always seems to go together somehow, right? And I mean, I've been at your restaurant. Your food is a bit of art. I love it.
Oh, thank you. We believe that you eat with your eyes.
That is true.
So so food must look beautiful, and it must taste as good as it looks.
So how did you guys become involved in the restaurant at Avontuur?
Well, I worked at Vale as the pastry chef, and Melanie, my business partner, was the executive chef there. And we were approached by the late Tony Tabor, who was the owner of the Avontuur estate many years ago. And he wanted to have a fine dining style restaurant. And he approached Mel, and she approached me, and together we went and had a look at it. And we just fell in love. What was there not to love? This beautiful wine estate, and it's also a stud farm, so all these beautiful mares with these beautiful white iceberg roses as you drive up the driveway. A visually very beautiful farm because it's on the foot of the Helderberg mountain. And so yeah, we've been very, very lucky to have a location where we have it. It's just magnificent. You know, you've been there, so you know.
Well, it's I mean, you've got a right spot there on the R44. So, you know, it's the farm the place advertises itself. You've got the perfect signboard because that road is quite busy. But
yes,
Avontuur itself, I mean, since I can remember, there's been a stud farm there. That's right. Tell us a little bit of the history of the farm. Do you know it?
Yes, I don't know all the history because it's a very old farm. I think it's the original documents go back to about 1880, somewhere around there. But the Tabors took the farm over in the early 1980s, and they were originally from Zimbabwe. And they saw the potential to have a wine estate as well as a stud farm because Tony just loved the two together, the combination of horses and wine. The blurb is fine horses and fine wines and fast horses. Sorry, I got that the wrong way around. And
fine horses and fast wine.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And I love to say fabulous food. So all the alliterations happening there. But he just saw the potential of having a stud farm there. And today we have two of the most incredible stud horses in South Africa. We have VAR and we have Oratorio. And the two of them are, sure, we have a lot of prizes and fantastic jockeys, and the two best studs in South Africa currently on the top 5 as far as I know. So wow. In that way, the GM, who's also a lady, Pippa Mickelborough, is one of the most, I'll call her a horse whisperer, because she can look at the horses as she drives past and she can just see what's going on with them. She is, I think books will be written about her one day, because she is the most incredible person who has put South African horses on the map in many, many ways. I better not speak too much about the horses because I don't know. It's all my own emotions speaking here and my knowledge about
No, it's here. Go on. It's interesting. I love
it. She's truly an amazing horse person. I don't really know very much about the horses. It's not where my passion lies. But having been there for nearly 20 years, you see the horses grow and how they go on to win races, and how it's just an amazing, the what do you call it, the history and the lines, like these horses sired these foals and these fillies, and this is what they've gone on to do. It's very, very interesting. And if you are a horsey person, what we do once a year is we allow you to come and meet the foals. We do what we call our mare and foal walk, and you can come and have a look at them. And Pippa or Philip Tabor or Michael Tabor, the two boys that now run the farm, might be one of your guides. So it just depends on which day you might get them. And it's fascinating to listen to what they have to say. So look out for that, because that's an amazing thing to be part of, because it's only once a year, and it's the amount of people we allow in is very small. So diarize that as soon as you see it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I actually haven't heard about that before. So did you guys start that restaurant from scratch?
We did.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, we did. And the restaurant initially was run by two ladies that did a South African style buffet. And then what they did was they would cook the food at home and then bring it in the morning. And
Wow.
what Mr. Tabor wanted was the actual sit down a la carte menu, a la carte restaurant. And so we started there with no kitchen, no restaurant as such, and we've built it up with one staff member in the kitchen, one waiter, to a group or a staff of roughly 21 in the summer. And we've been there for nearly 20 years now. So it works beautifully. It's a symbiotic relationship that we have with the estate. We've watched the two boys grow into the three boys. There's three of them grown into the men that they are today. And we have a really wonderful relationship with our landlords. We are very, very blessed, I have to say.
Well, it's
so
nice
Mr. Tabor wanted, so just a little recap, he approached Melanie, my partner, as I said, my business partner, and he said, come and have a look, see what you think. And she just fell in love with it and said, what do you think? I said, I'm in. And the rest, as they say, is history. So we started with one waiter, one member of staff in the kitchen, and just the two of us.
Okay.
So,
wow. So
do
both of you cook, or are you more on?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you both design the menus and cook and everything together.
Absolutely, we are a real 50-50 team. We do everything together. We design the menu. We often fight about the menu because our tastes are very different. And so Mel doesn't like tomatoes, for example. I love tomatoes. And so we often say no, yes, and then we have to have other people taste the food and help us to decide what we'll put on the menu. But there's certain things that will never, ever come off our menu that are evergreen items. For example, our duck, we're known for our duck. We'll never ever take our duck off the menu. And our deep fried ice cream, I think that will be, we'll have riots if we ever had to take that off the menu.
So that's interesting, right? I've had a duck before, but I've never had a deep fried ice cream. So that's definitely a reason to go. But I've seen it, but I've never thought, just shows you.
It's absolutely delicious. It's ice cream that's wrapped in phyllo pastry and deep fried, and we serve it with the most delectable caramel sauce. And it's very, very, very good.
Sounds wonderful. So your food philosophies, how would you describe that?
I would say that for me, what is the most important is that the food looks and tastes brilliant. And that our food is as healthy as we can make it. So we don't use things like MSG or aromat or any funny flavorings. Our food is real food. We make it fresh. We make it daily. So we don't like to use anything that comes out of a packet. And we just believe, our food philosophy is as healthy as we can make it is what we're going to do. And I think it shows in our portions and in the flavor that you get, that you can taste. This is really a great meal. You can taste the flavors. And we also don't like to fiddle too much with our food. So we don't like to have too much garnishing and too much detracting. We like the food to be the hero.
Oh, that's amazing.
And also we really like to use our local producers and our local farmers, and we try to use organic and free range and pasture reared as much as we possibly can. I think that's the way the world's moving, and it's very, very much part of Melanie and my philosophy to try and implement and include as many of those kinds of foods as we possibly can.
Oh, that's very cool. Your customers, are they the demographic? Are they mostly tourists, locals? What do they look like?
No, we've never ever marketed our business to an overseas market, because our business is so seasonal. So it doesn't help you market to all your beautiful swallows, and then they leave you in winter, and then you're left with no business. So our demographic has always been our local business, and the pudding has been our swallows, our overseas visitors. So a lot of them are retired and really love to dine and wine and bring families along, and to just really enjoy a laid back, comfortable eating experience at a restaurant with a beautiful view. And I must say, we've had our staff for as long as we've been open, a lot of them. So our staff know our customers by name, and they just love that. They love coming in and they say, your regular or your usual, or your bottle of Sauvignon Blanc or your bottle of Chardonnay. And our guests just love that. They love being greeted by name.
Well, that's now you're mentioning the bottles, and that's awesome that they can do that, right? So, wine is important for a good dining experience. So,
absolutely.
How do you actually choose your wines? Do you only use Avontuur wines? And, how do you, okay. Tell us a little bit about the wines that you serve with the food.
Well, the whole idea of opening a restaurant was to showcase our wines, and we have a brilliant winemaker who's just won 4 new golds at, I can't tell you right now because it's actually a secret.
Oh, okay.
But he's just won 4.
You can tell us. I won't
prizes.
tell anybody. But unfortunately, I'm recording it. It's going to be on the internet. So.
No, that's all right. I'm only kidding. It's all good. It's all good. He's just won prizes for our beautiful wines, and that was what Tony wanted in the beginning, was to have a restaurant that could showcase his wines. So all our wines our food items are paired with our wines from the estate. We only sell our estate wines, and we work very closely with the winemaker and with our marketing lady who's not with us anymore, Kobie van Oort, and who will be sorely missed, I must say. But with the wines, we like to pair the food with the wines, because that's the whole idea. You want this whole experience. Your senses must be just, one beautiful experience after the next. And how much nicer can you get than a wine that marries well with your food?
No, absolutely. Like I said, that place, I've had a few of those wines as well. They're very, very good. So something else you guys are doing is called the Avontuur. I actually didn't know you guys have this, the Avontuur Business Club ABC, which looks like a breakfast club.
It is.
Yeah, tell us more about this.
Oh, this is one of my favorite parts of our business, and that is running the network breakfasts. And what we do is we get the best speakers we can find in South Africa, and even we've had international speakers too, that come and speak to our members about all the different themes that go to or go along with business. So it could be managing your time better, or your tax implications for small businesses, or you name the topic. We've had it in the last 15 years because we've been running the Breakfast Club for probably 16 or 17 years now. And we've had people like Mike Hancock, the top speaker in Australia. We've had Al Nabusak. We've had Margaret Hirsch. We've had some amazing people come through our doors. And what's lovely is that we don't charge a membership fee. We believe that the very people we want to benefit from our network breakfasts are the ones that quite often are self-employed, solo entrepreneurs, and membership fees are expensive. So all that they pay for is their breakfast, and we take care of the rest. And it's very popular.
So that's very interesting. Do you find that those people become long-term customers from the restaurant and also from, for your wines?
Sure, well, that's a really good question, because the answer to that is yes. You know, because we host these breakfasts every month. You can imagine over the last 17 years how many breakfasts we've hosted,
yeah, that's
and how many speakers we've had. They become friends, and they become long-term loyal customers of ours. You know, they come back in the summertime with families, or they host weddings or christenings or birthday parties, and that's how we've maintained our business. We've always believed in a reciprocal sort of ethos, really, you know, where what you give is what you get. Actually, our business name, our CC business name, is called the Open Hat. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's what we believe in. Yeah.
So that's a very interesting business philosophy, because, and I think it's it's one of those hidden secrets that I always call it pushing the free line. If you give people more than they expect, or give something for free, and like you say, you're giving, you don't charge for this networking for breakfast, it's actually a very, very good marketing ploy. Or not a ploy, it's just good marketing, because you actually can show your customers that you care about them. And
what we do,
people appreciate
is
that.
we give them, absolutely, and we give them one of our breakfasts, what we actually serve as a breakfast. We don't pare it down or make it smaller, or network breakfast food is horrific at the best of times. I've had some terrible meals, and our philosophy is completely different. We give the best that we can make. So and then people know that this is what they're going to get, and it's so divine. And I think a lot of people actually come back for the breakfast, not for the networking.
So is there wine at this breakfast? I just want to make sure there's wine at this breakfast.
There's always champagne.
Okay.
There's always champagne. I think one of the questions that you asked me is like, what is a wine saying for me? And that is that champagne goes with everything.
That is true. I mean, you can't say it better. So do you guys do any other events?
Oh, we do. We do themed events sometimes in summertime. Like we've hosted a most wonderful and fun Mamma Mia night, which was a dress up. I think we are starved for fun. And so we try and do a lot of fun events. We do women's events where we get women in to empower other women, and it works with the same sort of idea as the network breakfast, but specifically for women. And themes are inspire, empower, joy, those kind of ideas, where we get people from our communities to come and participate, influencers, people that have a lot to say and to give on many levels. And then we have obviously goodie bags and beautiful makeup and lots of wine flowing. It's a lot of fun. And of course, we host events for everybody, from christenings right through to memorial services. We are part of people's history, and we are part of those sort of memories that people have, and we are very lucky to be part of those stories.
Well, that's awesome. So tell me, I'm just wondering, you mentioned not only events, but also, actually, I've not completely forgot what I wanted to ask you.
All right,
I'm glad it's not just me.
It'll come back to me. Things have changed such a lot this year with the coronavirus, and everybody has been forced to change their business models. So have you guys, or at least rethink it, have you guys come up with any ideas or any new plans?
Well, we have to obviously rethink what we're doing because just from a practical perspective. And so when we open next week, we will be running with a smaller menu just to get started with, because we don't really know what to expect. Are we going to have 50 people? Are we going to have 20 people? Are we going to have no people? So it's very hard to know what to do. And so we're going to just open with as much faith as we can muster. And we're going to run with a smaller menu and a smaller staff, just like we did before we had the lockdown, where we had to go, smaller and move our tables and all of that. So it will be very much the same. But yeah, in many ways, this has been a great opportunity to look at what you're doing and see what you can do different. We've been on the hamster wheel for 19, nearly 20 years. And what can often happen is that you can kind of just get caught up with the momentum. And this lockdown has given us a chance to step off and to relook at what we're doing and what we want to do. And also, what do we really want to do differently? We've got 20 years experience to look back on. Maybe we can make some changes. So the first thing that we've done is we've actually painted the restaurant just to give it a fresh new feel. And we're going to change all the pictures, and we're going to just make it look clean and beautiful and lovely. And I think just from a sort of spiritual perspective, it changes things. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, I understand exactly. It's like like I say, change is as good as holiday, and I think that's right. I think in this scenario where people would like just to see, I think there's something to say to go back to things that that you are used to, but also to have places change and looking progressive. I think that is great.
Yeah. Well, we have to change, menus and things like that. So we just decided that we would go with this really clean, beautiful look. I'm a photographer as well, so I've got 20 years worth of beautiful photos of this estate, which I have to say is truly, a photographer's paradise, because every day is different and every season is just better than the last. So we're going to, just give a new feel to an old favorite.
So did the lockdown give you some time to sort your photos that you never got time for?
The 50,000 photos, hell.
Oh my word. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of photos. Well, we've done some lovely new things. We've done some wallpapers with, when you do big take a picture and you make it as big as the wall.
Yeah.
So we've done that. That's really beautiful. But
wow.
yeah, we're going to go with we've got a few photos to look through and make some decisions. Yeah.
So actually, just remembered what I wanted to ask you. You mentioned influencers, and I was wondering, you said you do the marketing for the restaurant and stuff like that. Do you and this I think falls in with what's happening, right? Everybody now are even more on their phones and on online than they've ever been before. So do you guys use things like social media and influence and marketing and stuff like that in your business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are on every platform that there is, from Instagram to Pinterest. We have a very big following on Instagram as well as on our Facebook page, and a very what is the word I'm looking for? When you have a lot of back and forth. I can't think of the word.
Engagement.
Anyway, engagement, thank you. I couldn't think of a word. So there's a lot of engagement, and I always say in my kitchen, I'm the only one who's allowed to be on my phone, because I'm the one who's actually speaking to our customers out there in the big world. And yeah, we are very, 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 well, let's put it this way. I love social media. I think it's one of the funnest, most quickest way to engage with your clientele.
Well, I think the magic word there is engagement, because most people think social media is you post something and you forget about it, but actually it's not. It's talking to people, answering their comments, and actually speaking to them. And it's like the fastest way, like you say, to actually talk to people. You can start today and talk to 100 people if you really want to.
Absolutely.
You just need to
Well, I
make the
have to
effort.
say, in all our years of having our restaurant, we've never paid for marketing. We've never gone with a big marketing campaign or, spent 20,000 Rand on marketing. We've never done that. We've always used what's called guerrilla marketing. I don't know if you know the term.
Yeah.
But I am like the ultimate guerrilla marketer.
So every time if you say the word guerrilla marketing, I think about, the guys do it at the rugby stadiums. You're sitting there, next minute there's people jumping up in yellow T-shirts that were supposedly come to watch the rugby, but meanwhile they bought the tickets was paid for by some marketer that wanted to advertise a new cell phone or orange juice or whatever.
Well, I don't know if that's guerrilla marketing as much as harassment.
That's true, right? That's more like jumping onto somebody else's bandwagons, a type of marketing.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think I think for me, guerrilla marketing is just about being consistent and showing up all the time. And
well, like you said, engagement with your customers, right?
Yeah.
Actually talking to them, asking them what they want, and then giving that to them in their products. I think that is the most important thing.
Absolutely. And it's such fun, if you post something, say I posted a picture of a chocolate mousse last week, and the comments, the people just love it. People love food pictures. It always amazes me. They love to look at them as much as they love to eat them.
Instagram is just a wonderful place for foods, right? And I think you as a photographer, obviously, it speaks to you as well, and you appreciate the platform for the visual.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely
some very talented people.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Anyway, so the most important thing that you've learned from your journey there at the restaurant and in the winelands.
Ooh, that's a big question. I think consistency. I think if I've learned anything about being an adult and working, at a job that's fairly stressful and demanding, but also incredibly fulfilling, is consistency. In order to maintain your level of customers and to make people happy, you have to produce the same standards every single time. And I think that can get a bit tricky, because some days are good days and some days are bad days. But for the most part, you've got to get it right 99% of the time. So for me, it's been about consistency, passion and consistency. Yeah.
And that's awesome. So you cheated by giving me your champagne quote right in the beginning. But that's great. So tell us, if people want to get hold of you guys, how did they get hold of you?
Well, obviously we're on social media. We're on Facebook. We have our own page, the Avontuur Estate Restaurant. On Instagram, also Avontuur Estate Restaurant. They're all the same, and Twitter, as well as Pinterest. But right now our phone lines are down, so I'm going to give you an alternative number if anybody wants to phone and reserve for next Wednesday. Can I give it to you?
Yes, please do.
The number is 083 508 1525, or you can email us at openhand@polka.co.za.
I love that open hand one. So we'll put all the links down in the description so people can get that, and I'll make sure the phone number are in there as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, Zunia, are you doing anything special now that you're opening that you want to tell listeners about, or what?
I think the fact that we're opening is special.
That's
we're
true,
just so
right?
happy to be opening, So we're not doing any specials as such. We'll just be running with our menu just slightly smaller. And we cannot wait to see our friends and our loyal customers again, because we've missed them a lot.
Okay, I'm sure they're going to flood you, because I think people want to get out and people want to go to places. So as long as you haven't taken the duck off the menu, I think everything will be fine.
our takeaway menu as well, and it's the most popular, and it's a winner. You can't say it's delicious.
Yeah, no, I can vouch for that. Zinnia, thank you very, very much for spending the time with us. And yeah, I mean, we will put, like I said, we'll put all the links down in the description, and we appreciate, I know you're busy, so thank you for spending the time. Yeah.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you so, so much for having me. I've enjoyed our chat.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for your latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
Welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm talking to Kelly Zettler from the Thirsty Scarecrow. Welcome, Kelly. How are you?
Thank you, Will. Thank you. I'm very well under the circumstances.
Yes, I mean, obviously being in the restaurant industry, and in the wine industry, this is difficult for you. But let's start and tell us how you got involved in this industry. You know, how did you get involved in the wine, restaurant, hospitality industry yourself?
My passion for the industry actually comes from my mom. As a child, our home was, always filled with food, enough to feed an army. With 3 fridges and 17 freezers, she was always well prepared. I used to watch her cook all the time, and I was never allowed to cook myself. Moms always say too many cooks spoil the broth. And, she used to complain that I made a mess. But I actually first studied visual communication at Stellenbosch University, fine arts. And after I graduated, like any student, I was a little bit nervous to go out into the real world. And I begged my mom and dad to allow me to go study at the Institute of Culinary Arts, which was actually just down the road from us at Speed. And an additional 2 years, and I got my diploma in chefing. And shortly after graduating, my dad was actually renting out the property on the farm. It was running as a coffee shop, but the tenants were in arrears. And they said to me, look, now's your opportunity. You either do something, otherwise, we're going to give the spot away. So I got thrown into the deep end, but it was a good decision nonetheless. So actually in 2011, thus the Farmer's Kitchen was born and established. And shortly after that, in 2013, I started the Thirsty Scarecrow, and I met my husband-to-be, Ivan, and we've been running the Thirsty Scarecrow ever since. Craft beer was always up and coming thing, and the conversation between my family basically went along the lines of, let's build a craft beer pub, and the following day we were laying the foundation.
I mean, it's certainly become very popular, a popular spot in the last few years. So yeah, you've made a good decision.
Yeah, no, we've been very blessed, and it's grown beyond what I ever thought it would. We started as an 80-seater restaurant, and now we can accommodate about 500 people.
So you guys on the R44 there at the Mooiberger stall. Is Mooiberger part of the Thirsty Scarecrow business, or is it a separate business?
So it's a completely separate entity. Although Mooiberger is obviously a family farm. I am a born and bred Zettler, but I run my restaurants as a completely separate entity, and I actually rent the property from my dad.
Well, it's such a history. Can you tell us a little bit of I mean, it's always interesting to hear, where you are and stuff like that. Tell us a bit of the history of Mooiberger and what you got, what's been done there as well.
Well, the history goes back quite a while. I think it was in 1909, my great-grandfather, Mendel Zettler, he actually opened up a general dealer store on the corner road, and he was selling fruit and veg. And back in the day, strawberries, they were only available 3 months of the year. I think the first strawberries were actually planted in 1915. And what my grandfather would do is he would actually purchase all the strawberries from the local farmers in the area, and he would transport that via ox wagon to Paarl and send, and I think he got, if I remember correctly, my dad said he got a penny a pound for the strawberries.
Wow.
So things have changed a lot, and with new farming methods today, we're quite spoiled because we have strawberries 8 months of the year. It was in 1970 that Mooiberger itself, the actual farm store, was built, and it became very well known for its dried fruits, preserves, nuts, and local produce. And I think what Mooiberger is really known for today is its huge wine store, which stocks about over 250 estates. And that was built in 2000. But during that process, it actually took 30 years for my dad to obtain the liquor license for Mooiberger.
Wow. Well, I tell you what,
Yeah.
that store is one of those places that I used to love to visit, because you always used to find some lost old bottle of wine there at a cheap price somewhere. If you I'm not sure. I've actually been there for a while in the actual wine store. So, but I always used to find something that's hidden under a shelf at a good price there.
As my dad says, customers are always looking for a bargain.
Oh, so this was on purpose. So the scarecrows that you have there is quite interesting. Tell us a little bit of the history of the scarecrow. And it seems, it's become an institution on that road.
Well, the first scarecrows were actually put up on the farm in 1968, and they've changed a lot from how we know them today. The original scarecrows used to be the traditional poplap scarecrows, which was actually made by one of the ladies who worked on the farm for us, Mrs. Liebenberg. And to this day, she's retired now, but she actually still lives on the farm. So obviously the scarecrows were originally put up to scare the birds away because they were eating all the strawberries. And I don't think we would have ever imagined that they would have become so popular over the years. But obviously, with the traditional style of scarecrows that were made from material, the costs to maintain them were quite high, with the wear and tear and buying new material every year. So it was actually my dad, Dennis, who came up with the idea to make the first scrap metal scarecrow. And I think that was put up in 1990 or 1991. He just had plenty of scrap metal lying around, and he thought it was a good idea. And he's a avid art collector, and I don't know, he seems to come up with all these crazy and wonderful ideas. And from scarecrows that represent the big five to the soccer World Cup 2010, to even our controversial rugby teams with the bull and the zebra. Yeah. But I'm not going to say too much about the bull and zebra. If you drive past the road, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I've been there.
Maybe this year he'll have scarecrows. He'll release an edition with masks on. I don't know.
Yes, actually, it's quite a nice advertising board for your restaurant, right? So when visitors come to your restaurant and you've got to basically tell us what visitors can expect. What is your theme and your what do you want the Thirsty Scarecrow to represent, and what can visitors expect there?
I think that the setting itself is very unique in the winelands. When you come to the Thirsty Scarecrow, you'll be greeted by quirky and colorful scarecrows. And, in season, you'll have the most delicious strawberries bursting with flavor, do your own picking in the fields. I think the unique spot really creates this perfect environment for a laid back, vibey atmosphere. And obviously we have the most delicious beer-based pizzas and craft beer on tap. And as you sit back on the deck, you can enjoy a cocktail, a beer, or be it a glass of wine. And for me, my favorite part is when the sun begins to set on the perfect day. You can see the mountains and they just begin to turn this purple color, and there's no other view like it.
That's very, very true. And you guys are always full on those those sunset evenings. So what are your times that you are actually open?
We are open 7 days a week. The Farmer's Kitchen is open from 7:30 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. Well, 5 in the afternoon. And the Thirsty Scarecrow is open Mondays and Tuesdays. We open at 3 o'clock till closing, and the rest of the week we open from 11 a.m. till closing.
So what is your closing time?
Kitchen closes at 10 and the bar closes around 11.
Okay, so not too. You don't have a serious nightlife crowd. It's quite.
No. Being out on the farm, we're not aiming to be a Stellenbosch Joel. That's not our vibe.
No, understood, and so I understand that. And talking about vibe, do you sometimes have live music events and stuff like that?
We don't. We've done a little bit of live music in the past, but it's not something we really do. We might consider it in the future, but obviously we do need to adhere to strict regulations set down by the Stellenbosch municipality. So we just want to be in accordance with regulations. So,
your interest seems to very much in the craft beers. Where does that come from, and what can you tell us something interesting about the beers?
We have 55 taps at our establishment. I don't know another restaurant with as many taps as us. And, I'm pretty sure at some point we've sold every type or style of beer there is to sell, from APAs to Wit beers to gluten-free, stouts, porters, Weiss, Saison, you name it, We've even had a beer with a 41% alcohol content, which sold for over 1,000 Rand a bottle. We actually, it's very difficult to get the stock in. I think within 2 weeks we were sold out. you know.
Well, that must be
always
close to
like
South
have
Africa's most expensive beer, right?
Yes, it is. I don't think it's available in the country at the moment. Since we got it in, we had it in a few years ago, and we've been struggling to get it in since. So, but you know, we always looking for new and exciting beers, and always encouraging new upcoming breweries to, you know, to put in a visit, come chat to us. You know, besides the local craft that we do, we've obviously got imported beers as well from all over the world, you know, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Japan, UK, Spain. So yeah, we big on craft.
So how did you build up this collection? I mean, it must have been quite a bit of work and to get up to that level.
Yeah, you know, we started the business with 16 taps, and like I said, it was an 80-seater restaurant, and we were very blessed from the beginning. I still remember the first day, myself and my husband, we were standing on the side of the road, you know, we were handing out flyers, you know, we had no customers, and we just, for days and weeks, you know, we had no business. And, you know, there we were at the R44 robots handing out flyers. And eventually, after a few months, it just took off and people started to hear about us, word of mouth, which I still believe is the best type of advertising.
Absolutely.
And eventually we couldn't accommodate everyone, and we decided to expand. And so over the years, the menu